Once, Stratholme was the shining jewel of northern Lordaeron, a bustling city filled with life, laughter, and maybe some questionable eating habits. But as the shadow of the Scourge spread across the eastern kingdoms, this city became the stage for one of Azeroth's darkest tales. Now its streets echo not with trade or laughter, but the groans of the undead, and if we're being honest, the occasional sigh from heroes doing their daily time walking. The Eastern Kingdoms, a land of proud heritage, towering fortresses, and honestly some pretty dramatic scenery, was at the heart of humanity's civilization. Lordaeron stood tall among these kingdoms, a realm of prosperity and some interesting decision-making. But when the Scourge swept down from the north, Lordaeron's own cities became ground zero, and no city was more doomed to tragedy than Stratholme, which unknowingly fell right into the Lich King's sinister plans. Mal'Ganis, a dreadlord with a penchant for the dramatic, poisoned Stratholme's grain shipment, spreading the plague of undeath through its citizens. Once thriving trade routes and settlements became conduits for a new kind of customer, the mindless undead type. And with every infected bite, Stratholme inched closer to oblivion. Then came Prince Arthas, wielding a righteous fury and a certain lack of impulse control. In a desperate attempt to save his people, Arthas made the fateful choice to purge Stratholme. Believing his merciless act was his only hope, instead of saving his homeland, his brutal decision set him on a darker path, edging him ever closer to the Lich King's grasp. And thus Stratholme fell, a tragic turning point for Arthas, Lordaeron, and the Eastern Kingdoms alike. Today we venture into these cursed streets once more, confronting the horrors left in the wake of Arthas Menethel's infamous purge. And this time, we mean business. What horrors await us in this city of the undead? What dark power could possibly stand in our way? Enter Baroness Anastari, former noblewoman, now a banshee of the Scourge, who has haunted these ruins since the fall of Stratholme. Anastari, bound to the Lich King's will, holds the dark power to possess her enemies, twisting them to her will, an ability that back in the day sent shivers down the spine of many an adventurer. Yet here we are, barely breaking a sweat as we cut her down. In moments, the so-called terrifying Banshee has been returned to the shadows. So much for her reign of terror. She's now just another stop on our scenic tour of Stratholme. A once mighty, undead noble now just drops a handful of Time Warp badges, and if we're lucky, maybe some gloves we'll never equip. Rest in peace until the next Time Walking event. And now let's find our next targets, Nerubicon and Malachi the Pallid. Nerubicon, the undead Nerubian whose loyalty to the Scourge brought him from the depths of Azul Nerub to the burning streets of Stratholme. Armed with a swarm of scarabs, he once immobilized heroes in webs and drained their defenses, but now, just a bug underfoot on our way to Baron Rivendare. And then there's Malachi the Pallid, a mage of the Scourge and a master of life-draining spells. Once his magic could turn the tide of battle, freezing adventurers in place, draining their life essence with a single incantation. Today, just another 10 badges. Onward we go. As we press deeper into Stratholme, we enter the courtyard, once a place of order and peace, now overrun by abominations, a fitting sight for the city's twisted fate. Here roam the mindless creations of the Scourge, gruesome hulks cobbled together from Stratholme's fallen. The city's last defense is admittedly a wall of giant rotting flesh. Massive stitched-together brutes dripping with a particularly unsettling ooze that no amount of arcane power or divine light could ever hope to cleanse. And now, here he is, the courtyard's finest, Ramstein the Gorger, a towering stitched colossus with a well-earned reputation for flattening anyone in his path. The giant beast once struck fear into the hearts of heroes with his brute strength and devastating knockbacks. But today, his fearsome reputation meets the cold reality of a 10-second fight. Hey, that's 1 badge per second. Once upon a time, Ramstein was the last line of defense, the gatekeeper of Stratholme's darkest secrets. Today, he's more like an unfortunate bouncer on his lunch break, taken down before he can even land a second swing. Rest easy, Ramstein. Your services are no longer required. With Ramstein down and a handful of loot in our hand, we've cleared yet another hurdle in our undead sightseeing tour. Time to press on to the heart of Stratholme and perhaps even stir up some real trouble, if there's any left to be had. Our journey leads us to the Inner Sanctum, where not the infamous Baron Titus Rivendare, but his son Lord Arius Rivendare awaits. Arius began his tale as a noble paladin of the Argent Dawn, shining armor, unwavering purpose, all that. He came here to cleanse Stratholme and rid it of the Scourge's taint, but well, things didn't go quite as planned. Now, Arius stands as Stratholme's undead gatekeeper, filling his father's role, minus the dramatic flair. Where Titus embraced undeath willingly, his son was bound here by fate. His father would likely be moderately proud. It seems Stratholme has a habit of turning would-be saviors into permanent residents, and yet here we stand, another group of heroes determined to cleanse this haunted city. You'd think we'd have learned by now. Our greed for a few measly time-walking rewards may just be our downfall. So here we are at the end of our time-walking journey with the noble yet undead Lord Arius Rivendare. Will he challenge us like his father before him? Perhaps. But a handful of Time Warp badges say probably not. That wraps up our time-walking journey through Stratholme's haunted streets. Thanks for joining me as I relive this piece of Warcraft history. It's been a lot of fun visiting some of these nostalgic places from WoW's history, and these classic dungeons still have such a vibe. If you enjoyed this dive into WoW's darker lore, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment with your favorite memories of Stratholme. Until next time, happy haunting and happy Halloween. Later.